So the Cambridge English Dictionary recently published a definition of antinatalism, which I thought would be interesting to take a look at, share some thoughts on, because it's actually not that common that the word antinatalism gets included in dictionaries. There are a few non-English dictionaries that it's included in, but in terms of standard English dictionaries that ordinary people would go to and look up words, it's not really included in any. So let's take a look. So you can see here that the definition they've published is the belief that it is morally wrong to have children, or that people should be encouraged not to have children. And then there are two notes they've added, which is antinatalism may sometimes be motivated by environmental concerns, and antinatalism, the belief that it is morally wrong to have kids, often comes from the negative perspective that all life is suffering. And they've also given a range of statements to contextualize antinatalism as well, which we'll also go through. Okay, so there are a range of comments and observations I want to make about this. The first thing is that the core definition, the bit in bold, leaves out the pessimistic evaluation that coming into existence is a harm, which I see is pretty central to antinatalism. It is mentioned later in the notes where it says that antinatalism often comes from a negative perspective that all life is suffering, but personally this isn't actually how I would phrase it. I think the idea that all life is suffering is pretty hard to defend. Life contains a range of experiences, and I think it would be much better if they'd phrased it as the perspective that coming into existence is a harm, because this maintains the central pessimistic evaluation of existence, but it doesn't say all of existence, all life is suffering. It leaves room for a range of experiences in life, but with the overall conclusion that coming into existence is a harm. Another thing I wanted to comment on is that they specifically include environmental motivations for antinatalism. Personally, I think it's unfortunate that there's a growing association between antinatalism and environmentalism, and there's two main reasons why I think this. The first one is that it means the ethics of procreation now begin to hinge on the environmental sustainability of Homo sapiens, which means it's heavily conditional, and it just seems extremely far removed from how people actually use the term antinatalism and how it developed over time. The second reason is that it makes antinatalism fundamentally misanthropic rather than philanthropic. It's fine to make arguments for antinatalism that hinge on the harm that the being you're creating will cause, but for me the core concern of antinatalism is the harm done to the person who is being created, or the ethics of the act of procreation concerning the individual being created. My final sort of core observation here is that the definition they've given includes the idea that people should be encouraged not to have children. Personally, I don't think the definition of antinatalism should include any reference to activism. And don't get me wrong, I do think that antinatalists should be encouraging people not to have children, and I do think antinatalists should be taking actions to make the world a better place from an antinatalist lens. And that's because I'm an antinatalist. But I don't think that's part of antinatalism inherently. I don't think that should be part of the definition. So let's move on to some of these statements that they've used to put antinatalism in context. So the first one is the philosophy of antinatalism dates back to ancient Greece, but has recently exploded in popularity on social media. Now, the first thing I want to say about this is I am no expert on the history of antinatalism, so I don't know if antinatalism did exist as an idea before ancient Greece. But what I appreciate about this example is that it shows that antinatalism isn't just this recent idea that's come around. It's been around for thousands of years. It just so happens that given the rise of the internet, there's been a recent uptick in people identifying as antinatalist and also showing interest in the idea. But the idea itself has been around for a long time. The second one is antinatalism is more likely to appeal if you have a bleak outlook and see all human life as sad and miserable. So this one's kind of mixed for me, because if you do view human life as completely sad and miserable, then you are going to be more likely to reach an antinatalist conclusion. But I don't think thinking that is inherent to antinatalism. You don't need to think that to be an antinatalist. I personally don't see all of human life as sad and miserable. There are many things that make me personally happy and gain a sense of meaning, and there are many things I see other people that make them happy and give them a sense of meaning. So you don't have to have this completely miserablist, if that is a word, outlook on life to be an antinatalist. But I do agree that if you have that, it probably makes you more likely to be one. The third one is antinatalism is a philosophy and social movement in which people choose not to procreate, especially for environmental concerns. So the only thing I'd say on this one is this centering of antinatalism around environmental concerns, but I've already gone over that and explained my reasons why, so I won't do it again here. The fourth one is, it's hard to imagine how antinatalism could ever be widely adopted since it runs counter to so many biological drives. Yep, And the final one is, people who subscribe to antinatalism essentially believe that the world would be better off if humans didn't exist. This is an interesting one because many antinatalists do believe this, but there are some antinatalists who are actually conflicted over this. So there are many antinatalists that believe it's unfortunate that any sentient being comes into existence. And as a result, some of them believe that humans should stick around because this may influence the overall number of sentient beings coming into existence to be lowered. But this discussion is much broader than just basic antinatalism, so I'm not going to go into it in this video. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the recent addition to the Cambridge English Dictionary of the definition of antinatalism. Let me know what you thought of the definition that was included, whether you agree with it, disagree with it. Let me know what you think of my thoughts on it, and I will see you in the next one.